What's up guys? Today's video is going to be a fall makeup tutorial, but I'm not using anything new, kind of, with the exception of one product. But basically, fall is upon us. Actually, the first day of fall was like yesterday or 2 days ago as I filmed this. And so I am finally in the mood to like start transitioning my makeup, my looks, my clothes over to something that feels a little bit more warm and cozy, if you know what I mean. But with that, I'm often compelled to buy new things to do so, and certainly when it comes to makeup, I don't need to do that. So I thought rather than doing like a using what's new to create a fall look, we're using nothing new. And I actually have quite a few eyeshadow palettes in case you don't have the particular palette that I'm using or you just want more recommendations for fall. I actually have, I think, 9 palettes here to talk about, everything from super high-end to ultra affordable drugstore. We got it all here today, so let's go ahead and get this look started. Alright, so let's get started with foundation. Today I'm actually almost halfway through this. It's my Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear 24-hour foundation in the shade 330 Neutral. And to apply that, I'm actually using a new brush. This one's from Real Techniques. I recently posted a video about it, but honestly it is a flat top kabuki with slightly rounded edges. Any sort of dense, fluffy blending brush will do. Like for instance, just the regular face buffing brush from Real Techniques. I just can't find mine right now. Oh, by the way, don't be fooled. I love using old makeup and I love getting use out of the products I already have, but I definitely have a trunk club with new fall shirts sitting in the other room waiting for another video, as well as new sweaters in my cart at Nordstrom. It's all about balance, you know? Okay, next up is concealer. This is the newest product. It's relatively new, like within the last month that I purchased this, but it's what I've loved, and I've thrown away the old concealers that I was using before this, so I can't go back to those to use. So we're using I'm using the Beauty Bakery Instabake 3-in-1 concealer today. I have a review of this and the matching foundation that goes along with it. But I've just really been loving this for the amount of coverage it's been giving. It's also a little bit lighter, so it brightens too, and it just lays really well over the foundations that I've been pairing it with. So I figured rather than reach into my collection for something that I haven't used in a really long time, probably don't love as much as this, I would just go ahead and use this. Now for the face, starting with bronzer / contour. I've really been loving my Huda Beauty Tantour, but I figured, that's not the first kind of creamish product I've ever used on my face that I've loved. Why don't I go back to one of those that I've loved in the past? This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. It has the kind of poofy applicator here that you can just apply directly. Okay, this looks extreme, but trust me, it blends out like a dream, I promise. Has this applicator that you just go in like that. Kind of like Huda Beauty's Tantour. I feel like it looks a little extreme when you first apply it, but it just blends in so flawlessly. Now it's not identical to Huda Beauty's Tantour because the Tantour is more of a mousse texture, whereas this is definitely more of a liquid, but they accomplish almost the exact same thing, so I think it just comes down to a matter of your preference. Which texture and consistency you prefer to work with, or which texture plays best with the other products that you're working with in your makeup routine. Okay, so now onto the blush. I went way back. I don't even know if this is still available, so I apologize if it's not, but back in the day, I used to love the IT Cosmetics Vitality Cheek Flushes, and how perfect is this shade for fall? The look that I'm gonna go for on my eyes is gonna be purpley berry, burgundy, I guess, we'll see. And so this is called Matte Sweet Apple, and it's just like a really pretty pinky red tone that is exactly as it sounds, like as a sweet red apple that then also reminds me of fall and like apple picking. Oh my gosh, you know what is the best? Fresh apple pies from an apple orchard. Ugh. And because I kind of anticipate a more dramatic eye today, I'm gonna keep it pretty light on the cheeks, knowing that I can always go back in and add more blush. And now for highlight, I'm going in with a drugstore classic. This is the Milani Strobe Light Instant Glow Powder in the shade 02 or Day Glow. Just has a slightly golden undertone, but doesn't lean too warm. So it's not icy enough for winter, but it's not warm enough for summer. It's like that perfect golden glow for fall. Okay. Now let's move on to the eyes. Let's run through the palettes I picked first so you can kind of see all the options that I personally considered like my fall go-to color palettes before we get to the one that I ultimately chose. So first up is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I talked about this when I compared it to the new Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. Go check that video out if you want to know, kind of how close this palette comes to that. There are a couple shades that are pretty similar, but because I'm not using anything new, I did not include the Naked Honey. Instead, I put this bad boy back in my top, what did I say, 9, 10 for the fall, because these tones, like, they're bronzy enough and sunny enough to be good for summer, but then you incorporate these teals and like the antiquier gold shades in here, and it just puts it in that fall category for me. I love it. Next up, it's a classic. Who could ever forget it? It's the Anastasia, oh my god, mine's so dirty. It's the Modern Renaissance palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I mean, the berries, the autumnal oranges, like, there's nothing about this that doesn't say fall, you know? And in an entirely different color direction, but still from Anastasia, the Subculture palette. Say what you will about it, I was personally a fan of it and still am. I love the combination of the mustardy yellows with the teals, the burgundies, the bronzes. Like, this is like the color palette of the fall outside, you know what I mean? The colors of the leaves, when they turn from green to burgundy and orange and yellow, like, this is fall in a color story, you know? Similar to Subculture, but not quite as pricey and maybe a little bit less polarizing in the makeup world, is the Rimmel Magnifies Jewel Rocks edition. Anytime I talk about mustardy yellows or jewel tones in a palette, this one always comes up for me because look at these gorgeous tones. I don't know that I can really think of another drugstore palette that has this interesting mixture of colors and textures. This kind of yellowy shade over here is kind of like a shifty duochrome. It's like pale yellow that shifts, has like a greeny shift. Actually, same for both of these two on the end. They're just shiftier shades combined with the blues over here. I actually think I'm going to use this in a tutorial coming up soon because I am scared of blues. I talked about this in a video recently. It was actually where I did a review of the Viseart Grande Pro 3 palette, and I hadn't really touched the blues in that palette just because it's not an intuitive shade for me to work with my color palette. Like, I don't think it goes well with my eyes. It's just one of those shades that I tend to avoid, but one of you guys gave me the great idea to mix it with a shade that I am more comfortable with, like a bronze. And so as I pulled this palette out today, I realized, oh my gosh, this has blues with all of the colors that I'm used to loving and working with, from the mustardy oranges, there's a bronze right beside these blues, some more coppery bronze shades over here. Like, I think that is going to be like a next personal challenge kind of video. I don't know, what do you think? And my next palette is actually an indie pick. It is from Sydney Grace, and they actually launched this last year, their Autumn's Rain palette, and the title couldn't be a better description for what you're gonna find inside. It's kind of a rainbow palette in the way because it has a little bit of every color, but the more colorful shades here are like metallized, so they come off more as jewel tones as opposed to like bold pops of color on your lid. I mean, they totally could be bold pops of color on your lid, but there's something about this finish that they've given them that just gives them that depth and workability that just makes them a lot easier to wear really amped up or toned down, in my opinion. So love this palette as well. And now we got some petite palettes to run through real quick. First up is the ColourPop I Think I Love You palette. If you are just a fan of like true warm bronzy tones for fall, this is going to be for you. I mean, it's arguably a summer palette for that very reason, but if you want to take it to more earthier, sultry levels as opposed to like a brighter, kind of sunnier gold you might wear for summer, this is a really nice palette to do it with. Then there is the Zoeva Cocoa Blend Voyager palette. Look at how cute and petite that is. But inside you will find a similar mix of like warmer bronzy tones, but you do get that pop of burgundy in here. I actually have the full size Cocoa Blend palette as well, but for some reason the shades in there just strike me as being more of a summer palette because it has lighter, softer shades in there as opposed to being the somewhat deeper and like sultry shades that are in the petite one. So it's also great for travel too. And then last up, this is actually probably the newest palette in here, but I couldn't not include it because it's perfect and it's so affordable. This is from Believe Beauty, and it is a 6-pan palette called Golden Disco. You got the golds, the bronzes, an antique green, plum, a black shade with like golden shimmers to it, and then a classic kind of frosty highlight shade. There are no mattes in here, so if you absolutely have to have a matte as a blending shade, you might need to use this as a supplement for other palettes that you have, but I mean, I figure if you're watching my videos, you probably have one, if not more, eyeshadow palettes on your hands, so you might be looking for something like this to complement those that you have. And in that way, it's kind of nice because then you know you're not really duplicating any of the other mattes you probably already have in your collection. You're just getting that really edited fall collection of shadows you're after, you know? And I think it's probably $5, maybe even less than that. So definitely an affordable find. So the palette that I actually picked for this video is less of a drugstore find, but when I knew I wanted to do a throwback / shop my stash video doing a fall makeup look, this was the palette that popped into my head first. Not only because it's an amazing fall color palette, but it just is a palette that I didn't get enough good of when I first got it, because it came out with a launch of a ton of other products, and it just deserves more love, and I want to love on it. It is the Pat McGrath Mothership 5 palette. So in here, it's actually, you kind of can't even see the colors here because of the glint, but there's a deep plum, you get your bronzy, you know, brown shades, a beautiful crimson burgundy, and then your shifty shades over here. I'll be real honest, the shifty shades say fall less to me, but you know I love a shifty shadow, so here we are. Oh, hold up, I just realized I didn't do my brows. So real quick, I'm just gonna do with my CoverGirl Ultra Fine and Define Brow Pencil in the shade Soft Brown, setting that with my Anastasia Dip Brow Gel. I've been watching way too much TikTok. Okay, now onto the eyes. I am taking the lightest matte brown shade in this palette and sweeping that through my crease. Ooh, there was definitely something glittery on this brush before I used it. I did not properly clean it. Oops. Then I'm taking the deep matte plum in this palette and patting that in my outer corner, as well as taking a little bit of that and running it along my lower lash line. Really just keeping it to the outer half of my lower lash line though. And then I'm also going in with the same brush that I used to blend out my crease, my original crease shade, using that to blend those two shades together. Then I'm taking that burgundy shade and just a flat shader brush, and I'm patting that starting in the center of my lid, blending it inward towards my inner corner, as well as blending it into that deep purple that I just laid down. I'm using it dry here, but you could really intensify it by using your finger to apply or taking a mixing medium and wetting it to get like an ultra metallic finish. But instead of getting a lot of my shimmer from that burgundy shade, I'm going into the warm shimmery bronze in here, taking that same flat shader, starting by patting it in my inner corner and then working it through my crease, really focusing that glittery shade through my crease. Then I'm using the frosty white shade with a strong yellow, green, gold shift to it, patting a teensy bit of that in my inner corners, and then finishing off by taking that same small detailer brush that I'm using, which by the way is actually a lip brush from Smashbox, and then going back in that with that same bronze shade that I used in my inner-ish corner and crease, and applying that to the inner portion of my lower lash line. And this I actually do think I am going to use wet, just so I can really focus that pigment and shimmer and shine on my lower lash line. You can see in my crease that the glitter really disperses there, and I'm really looking for more of a focused bronzy glow. The mixing medium that I'm using, by the way, is the Esom Pro mixing medium. Now for the liner, I'm just going in with Urban Decay's 24/7 eyeliner in the shade Demolition. It's just a matte, kind of warm brown sort of liner. Really one of my go-tos whenever I want a waterline shade or even an upper lash line shade that's deep but not quite as severe as black might. And then for lashes, I'm using my trusty L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise. Okay, so there's my mascara done. I do want to put some falsies on, but I will wait for my mascara to dry first. Let's do lips in the meantime. I have a couple of shades that I've picked from the L'Oreal, this is their matte lip ink collection. I knew I'd want to do nude, but I wasn't quite sure which shade. Maybe I'll do a combination of shades. First, I'm going to start with I Explore. This is kind of a warm, medium nude. I think it's going to be a little too deep. Yeah, it's a little too deep and orangey. Well, I actually don't hate that, but I don't want it quite as deep. So I'll do this first, and then I'm going to quick go in with that slightly lighter, slightly pinker shade. This is called I Create, and these dry pretty quickly, so you got to make quick. Is that going to be too mauve? It might be. We'll see. Oh, I love that. So those are the lips, and now that my mascara is dry, I'm going to go in with my false lashes. These are my Ardell magnetic accents. They are my absolute favorites. I think they still only have one style in these, but they're all I really need because all I'm ever after is this kind of outer flare. And if you're interested in a tutorial on how I like tips and tricks for how to apply magnetic lashes, or if you just want to learn more about magnetic lashes because I am addicted, I will link a video down, well, a couple videos. I have a whole playlist down in the description bar below because I'm addicted to them. Okay guys, so that is my Shop My Stash fall makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this as well as those palette recommendations in the event you don't want to use this one from Pat, or don't care to use this one from Pat McGrath. I hope all of that was really helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.